The hat you're wearing, Pearl, did you make that or did someone else?
No, I didn't make it, but I do make cedar hats. This one belongs to my friend Linda, and Linda lives not far from here. She's a good friend of mine from the West Coast, but she's lived in Ladysmith for many years.
The process of collecting the cedar, and can you explain that process, how you get the cedar and what you do with it?
Well, you know that most people know there's a red cedar and a yellow cedar. That this is a red cedar. And what we do is we harvest it right in our own backyards here in this territory. Cedar is plentiful, the red cedar, and we go and we don't take more than a width like this. I always teach everyone, you put your thumbs together and you go, and you get, your cedar strip is only in between your fingers. And you take no more than that. And what you do is you start from below and the bottom of the tree, and you just chop very gently. And you put your hand under and you feel the smoothness of the sap, and you pull it up and you let it go for as far as it'll go. And a lot of times we look for trees that don't have the knots. We look for it to be smooth. We like the smaller trees, like, you know, if we can hug it like this. We like those. The big ones, the bark is so thick and it's hard to pull it up. So we usually go before the end of April, March and April, and we usually go in the darker areas of the forest where the trees are in the shade, because when they're in the sun, you know, it gets plentiful branches. So we like to go with the dark, we go with the dark side of the forest where there's not too much sunshine. And if it's really hot, like the temperatures are higher than usual, we won't go because the sap will be running. Because when you get sap in the cedar, it gets pretty sticky. It's difficult to work with.
So once you get that big long strip, do you soak that in water?
When I pull the cedar off the tree, I take it and bring it to family or someone who's willing to help me, and they debark it. They take all the bark off, the outside. Like you have the inner side, then the outside is all the outer side of the tree, and you peel that off. You take it and you peel it off so that all you're left with is the inner bark, the smooth part. So we keep cleaning until all that's gone. Once that is gone, then we roll it and we store it in a dry place so it won't get moldy, because it will mold, so we have to be very careful how we store it. So once I roll it and I hang it up and I'm ready, I think, okay, I need to make a hat. I have a hat order, or I want to make a hat. So I'll go and take it and I'll throw it in a tub. Like the tubs are usually that high, the plastic tubs. I buy at Home Hardware, colorful ones, throw them in, put the water in, leave it overnight, get up. I'm an early morning worker, so I need to get it done early in the morning. I get up and it's soft. I take it and I use it, they call it a jerry stripper for leather. It strips the leather, like the blade. It has these utility blades that stick up, and it attaches to the table with a clamp. So we put the cedar in and we pull it along those utility blades that are sticking up. And I measure them. There's different sizes you could make. You could make it where you got about, I would say about half an inch, and then you can get one that's an inch. And to get these, I like working with these really thin cedar. This is, to me, is narrow. It's narrow, it's not as wide. Some people use the wider ones. I like the narrower ones. I think it looks a lot.
It's tighter, right?
It's prettier. So I make mine thin like this. I mean narrow like this, and I make sure my jerry stripper blades are all set up for that. And once you start, you put the cedar, this is one strip of cedar, like one big piece like this. So you take that cedar and you put it in the jerry stripper and you pull it, and it starts making these strips, which are thick. They're thick. They're not thin like this. You get it to so that you can have it split, then, stripped to the width you wanted. Then you have to split it to get it thin so that you could make these so it's lighter. I hope you understand what I mean by, see, when you get these,
the strips are thicker.
Strips are thicker than in their layers, and you could peel them apart and you end up with more than one.
Per strip, you could end up with 2 or 3 or...
Yes, 3 at the most. Like I do quite well with the stripping, but there's days where I get so many small pieces and I ripped it, or it's not a good cedar, so it takes patience. Sometimes it's very, like, you really learn to be patient with the cedar, because you get going and you think you got a good one and you're pulling it and and all of a sudden it rips. And, because you would like to, most cedar weavers would like to have a long one that they could make go round and round. And when I'm weaving, I use vegetable oil, put it in my water, and it keeps it nice and
Pliable.
yeah, and fresh and good looking. Like when you're done, and I've instructed some people, I says, if you want to preserve the wood, you think of how you preserve wood. So oiling it is important, and I've suggested to some people they could put a varnish finish or something, it's up to them what they want it to look like. Some want it to be so natural, they'll just do a real light spray, and like you do with your shoes, and you just keep the water repellent on it. So.
How's the edging done?
Ooh, that's really difficult.
I bet.
So when I start, you have all these pieces like this, each strip is hanging out. And what I do is I put the one piece behind, and then I just have to fold up and under and tuck, and it's just going around and I have it exactly this way. I work with it. I would say my first hat was around 5 years ago now.
Wow.
And I make 2 or 3 a year. I don't do more than that. And I don't do it for a living, making a living. I do it as a hobby. Like I do knitting, I do sewing. I like to sew, and then I'll think, oh, maybe I have cedar tucked away, and I'll take it out and make a hat. What I can tell you about the Chief McQuina hat is it goes up and it keeps going narrower and narrower, and it gets tall, and that shows that the chief there, he had that hat that went, and that's not my story to tell, but that was one of the cedar hats, and we have a mold that I call, that's the Chief McQuina one, because it's up in Port Alberni, where I seen a lot of pictures of him when I was in residential school. And that was, the school I went to was the McQuina school. And I remember that chief wearing that hat, and I was oh, that's a Chief McQuina. And this is basically like a sun hat, hey, someone made it. But a lot of our leaders in Stz'uminus, our old chiefs, they wore blankets, wool blankets, headbands, scarves. They didn't wear, I don't recall too many hats being shown, and if they did, it was often a gift or a trade from another community wanting to trade for maybe their blanket or their or a gesture of peace and friendship.